We're recording community dinner talk with four tonight, the four-tiered system.
Okay.
We can include the garden spirits would be five. It's September 2nd.
Yes.
Approaching the Indian or Indian or late summer. Let's throw out the word Indian summer. Let's just call it late summer. You know, you could glorify the Indians in other ways besides calling some part of the year Indian.
The climate isn't the same anyway.
Yeah, we got all the climate change going, laugh out loud. So the discussion tonight, this is Health Alchemy, Craig Lane, and we have two men and two women, which I like the mixed crowd.
Thank you, Trevor.
And I have a private group called Gender Alchemy, and if anybody, this group is going to max out probably, and so if anybody's interested, we could get another one going that someone else could facilitate. And the Gender Alchemy system is really, you could have a men's or a women's group, but my idea is you can have a men's group observing a women's group in the same time and place, and a women's group observing a men's group.
Interesting.
We've done it.
That's good.
Yeah, and then you can also have interaction. So the group will top out at probably 12 to 14. That way there could be a group of 6 or 7 men and 6 or 7 women, and they can have times where they're apart processing and times when they're together, like a breakout room in person. And then there's a Zoom version of it too on Tuesday night. So that's all on the website, healthalchemy.com. ALK is in kitten, EMY, no CH, because we're in California K kind of people. Remember the X-Files guy was in that one, Californica, or the X-Files guy? Oh man, that was a great, Californica, I think it was called. It was spelled with a K. But I digress. So thank you. Hey, YouTubers out there. I've been on YouTube for 13 years, and I never really thought of myself as a YouTuber, but now that I'm in the thousands of views and hundreds of subscribers, I guess I have to say I am a YouTuber. And so thank you, fellow YouTubers, for supporting me in the amounts that you do, and really putting up with me. I'm an audacious fellow. So we're ending our talk on the series of talks on how humans harvest light. And you notice how the lighting, as this talk goes on, will get darker, and then the lanterns up above will light us up. And the hummingbird agreed over there. You just said something. And, we're in this dance of life. And so, harvesting light is it's something that, most people don't think about. But this series of works that came up on Sayer G's Green Med Info was about melanin is what triggered it. And the pigment that makes us tan, there's these melanin producing cells, and it turns out there's some, like vitiligo, when you get the white spots.
Okay.
That's related to fungus. They damage the melanocyte, it's called, the cell. Hey, well, guess what? From my buddy Michael McAvoy, he gives me this chart. It's an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper chart, and it says MSH, and there's all these charts and funguses and limes and Epstein bars and hormones, and I'm like, MSH, and he goes, melanocyte stimulating hormone. I'm like, what? I thought I knew a lot, and I'm like, so those melanin cells make hormones? I'm like, wow, that's cool stuff, because hormones are just, if you think about the process of life, hormones are just signals. They're chemical signals, and the nervous system sends electrical signals. And then there's psychic signals, which defy time and space in general. One example of a psychic signal that defies time and space was presented in The Secret Life of Plants. And this guy had a dog that they hooked up with an EKG around his heart waves. And then he kept the dog in LA where he lived. Then he went off to New York, 3,000 miles away, and he was hooked up too. And the dog and him, every emotion that man felt and changes in his waves simultaneously affected the dogs 3,000 miles away. Like the non-locality, right, of things. It proved it in that. So the Russians were doing studies in the 50s and 60s like this. We never heard about it because, there was a bunch of breakthroughs in the 60s, Timothy Leary and the LSD generation, and they were having like 80% alcoholism cure rate with LSD facilitated properly.
Sure.
Yeah, but wow. The powers that be didn't want any of that.
Yeah.
No. They all got crushed. And I learned about it through a local guy here, Robert Anton Wilson. He wrote a book about a series of books about the Illuminati. And if you ever get a chance, just look up on the web, Robert Anton Wilson, folks. I think he might have passed away. If there's anybody in the comments, or I know that somebody out there knows this guy because he was pretty popular. And he had a couple of really amazing books, and he had a whole chapter in this book about the number 23, how if you see it appearing in your life, then it means this and this is going on. And what's 2 + 3? 5.
Yeah.
So the 23, he had all these examples of these synchronicities with this 23 thing over like a 10-year period in this one chapter of the book. I was like, it was a great argument for mystical stuff going on right under our noses. And like Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is upon the earth and men do not see it, or people do not see it in today's PC world, I guess. And so the melanocytes, so there's this dance going on in these fractals. Like there's this dance in our cells, and we're cells on the earth. Think about it, we're just cells on. If you see it from a larger view, we're kind of cells on a bigger, and then the earth and the solar system is a series of cells and a bigger being that I can't comprehend what a galactic being might be like, and then our galaxy is a cell and another fractal out, which we can't begin to comprehend. So that's the world I've lived in my whole life. Like even at 6 years old, I used to think about this stuff, like freak show, but what an amazing freak show. So these cells that make us tan make a hormone. And somehow Lyme and Epstein-Barr and these shape-shifting biopleomorph bugs, microbes, are related to this. So Morley Robbins with the root cause protocol, I lit up a few practitioners recently with this line. Is this a new paradigm? Morley states, and this is a science guy, there's no such thing as illness. There's only a deficiency of energy.
Oh, I like that.
I'm like, that's it. That's it. That sums it all up. Because the Taoists and the martial artists, they all talk about chi. And those of you watching this, I'll share this clinical pearl from my practice. This semi-young man comes in, and he's in early 30s, and he's got his beaming girlfriend, and it was obvious they were having good sex because they were glowing. I know this stuff, So, and he's having Lyme problems. He was convinced it was Lyme. He hadn't had the diagnosis of the borealis, whatever, blah, 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 bacteria, but it's not really what it is anyways. It's a shape-shifting biopleomorph, or a shape-shifting microbe. That's really what it is. But we can't really talk about that. So that's the phenomenon, right? You go down a layer where there's energy, because, well, let's go back to this too. Our cells don't see CD4 receptors. Our cells don't see cholesterol. Our cells don't see numbers. Our cells see frequencies and energies. But we've agreed upon this contrived thing of CD4 receptors. But that's an agreement of a conceptual system. That's not the way it's actually working. I hope we all understand that. At best, words and symbols are pointers to reality. At best. At worst, they're manipulation tools, which they're being used now.
Right.
I got what these beings running the world got. I got the sinister Monopoly game. I don't care about anything. I mean, I got that. That's how I can understand what's going on. It's dark, but I have it. What can I say? You got it too, but you guys no one wants to acknowledge their dark side. It's the source of all our creativity. That's why if you deny your dark side, you lose all your creativity. Oh, but I digress. And so somehow this melanin thing is tied in with our mitochondria and this melanocyte stimulating hormone, and that our mitochondria are they can multiply like in microseconds. So if the cell needs a lot of energy real quick, the mitochondria will start dividing really fast, and they can get as high as like 20 or 25 mitochondria 1,000 per cell. Like a brain cell needs a lot of energy right away. They'll open up their electron transport chains and citric acid cycles and all that, and make a lot of energy. And so when you're making that much energy, if you have friction or waste in the system, it's going to get burnt, right? And cause rust. And I was telling this client that had all these, like my grandma had a lot of freckles. That's oxidative rust. Moles. I got a new mole right here coming out. I've been trying to fight it and pick it out, but it's not working. There's a new mole coming out right here. And that's, my teachers would have said that's proteinaceous waste working its way out from some damage internally. And so When our mitochondria aren't burning fuel efficiently, that involves copper and magnesium, by the way, not zinc and C and D3 bullshit. Then you produce oxidative rust, and iron and oxygen burn out of control. And you go anaerobic, which is a deficiency of oxygen, or you go dysaerobic, which is the mismanagement of oxygen, free radical world. And one's yang and one's yin. The fungus, like you when you're down here, and then another type of really bad fungus. There's these funguses they found in Chernobyl that was thriving in the radiation in the reactor core.
I never heard.
Yeah. That's what the Sayer G article was talking about.
Whoa.
Are you freaking kidding me? A fungus that likes radiation.
Wow. Wow.
Uh-oh. So guess what? Candida, when you're in a high radiation environment, it likes it. Oh, and our immune cells end up, it mutates into this monster. And I've seen live blood analysis of white blood cells running like the humans running from Godzilla kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Like running from the fungus when they would normally be suicide bombers into it. The hyphae, as it spreads, the fungal threads as they spread throughout the system. So my theory about this whole viral thing is that I've now gotten more science around it. 4 or 5 years ago, if you read Arthur Furstenberg's book, The Invisible Rainbow, you know that all this is about frequency. James, that's why James goes crazy about all this. James, Whitman, he just goes nuts because he knows what's going on. He's ex-military and he knows things that he probably doesn't want to know. And it makes him crazy inside. It does for me too. I know things I don't want to know. Michael Franti has a line in one of his songs about this, like, I don't want to know all this shit. How am I going to find love and all this bullshit,
Yeah.
Well, guess what? That's what it's about. So if fungus likes radiation, then our very premise of how life works is sort of in question. Just like these whole civilizations that have been here for hundreds of thousands of years and they don't want us to know about the cycles of this planet's been through, versus evolution. It's like, yeah, there was some evolution, sure. A little bit, but a lot of manipulation too. We're way more manipulated than most people realize.
That's the word.
Pretty awesome. But these earth suits, like these things are designed pretty well, So I'm going to digress. I'm digressing to go forward into the talk, but so this melanocyte stimulating hormone tied in with fungus, it turns out that this melanin, this compound that makes our skin tan, is also in certain mushrooms, and they named chaga. Oh. Everybody likes the chaga mushroom. Very high in this melanin. And the premise is that these mushrooms are somehow, the melanin molecule in them is like stored sunlight. Very loosely put. I mean, that's not, I'm paraphrasing. And I have it in, I might need to put it in the description of all the talks. I don't know if I put the link in the Google Drive, but I have a document about all this where I collected all this information and did my proper credits to Green Med Info and all that, because Sayers really putting out some good stuff. I think I meet that guy sometime. So yeah, and then I went and did some other work. I found other links like in Wikipedias and NCBIs and NIHs, and then they all seem to be in agreement that the melanocyte is a mystery. Even our mainstream science people are like, and it goes back to one of my Oriental medicine teachers said. He said, Western health summed up in one word. And he was a master, we were all like, E.F. Hutton, what's the master going to say? And he goes, arrogance. Oh, yes. Arrogance.
There you
yes.
Go. Boy.
And every one of my very humble teachers brought that up. And that's why Chief Seattle, when the white men came into Seattle, he's like, there's nothing we can teach you guys. And the white man's like, what? He's like, you already know everything.
Yeah.
I got nothing to teach you. You already know everything.
Oh, it's
well, that's the Jesus metaphor of the rich man getting into heavens, like a camel going through the needle in the haystack kind of thing. It's the same idea. Being a rich man means rich in concepts.
Oh, good.
It's not rich in money. You're rich in your concepts. That's what it's just translated poorly. That's all.
And you're stuck there.
Well, yeah. So let's see. I am going to cut myself off here before 8. All right. I got a good meter on this tonight. So somehow, so if fungus is eating light, then our bodies, let's be clear. I saw these signs, all these germ theory things. I'm in the post office today, and just germs and sanitizing and just, oh, you guys were so brainwashed. But anyway, if you have, so there's one kingdom of funguses, and guess what, folks? You know, seaweeds and chlorellas, they're in that same kingdom, fungal kingdom. And then you got your bacterial kingdoms, right? And then you got your viral, well, that weird mycoplasmas and viruses and this sort of world of where we kind of scratch our heads. And so we really only know maybe 1 to 5% of what's going on. But we like to advertise everybody else that we're experts and we know what's going on. You know, like, oh, Fauci knows everything. But even the guys who know everything know maybe 1 to 5%. And if you don't have the spiritual side down, then your 1 to 5% is completely worthless. It's like having monopoly money. You know, if you don't have it rooted in reality, you know, which is this moment now, and you have an agenda on your hands, which further takes you out of, you know, the mystery of the moment. And that's sort of the digression is, you know, we were talking about the gargoyles, you know, so, you know, like, oh, I have a couple of things I can use over here. That'll be one gargoyle. I got my sexual one. I got my tantric Buddha here. Tantric Buddha.
Well, let me see.
There's a tantric Buddha.
Oh.
She's kind of small though, you know. That's pretty small, folks. I mean, look how small she is.
I hope it's not a kid.
Oh God, pedophile Buddha.
It's so in our consciousness.
There you go, folks. Pedophile Buddha. Oh, terrible. And then we have happy big Buddha. So there, you know, you're going into the church, and there's not any way for you guys to see these. No. So we'll hold these here for a second.
One on either side.
So you're going up the steps between these two. Here, you hold one over there.
Am I
want
close
people
enough?
to see. Let's see if this will work.
Maybe I don't let it fall.
I know I'm terrible at this stuff. There we go. Okay, that.
It's on a bong.
We're not supposed to know that on the video. We'll try to hide it from the video people. You blew it, dang it. There, okay, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, they're on this blue. See, folks? That's not a bong. That's just a blue little ring. Okay, so imagine you're walking on the steps into the, you know, and there's these two gargoyles or whatever at the church entrance. Oh, yeah, there you go. There we go. That works. So you're going into the steps in the church here, and we need a better person. Okay, the mate can be the person. So you're going up the steps here, and then you see these like gargoyle things, and you're like, that's kind of scary. And so what happens? Like, do any of us know how this whole thing's going to play out on the planet? No, we don't. So it's the mystery, right? Yeah. And that was the segue I was leading into. Is like when we have the light, then everything's seen, right? And I don't know, is a hummingbird cruising on up there? Hey, buddy. And so you see things in the light, and humans. The premise was that the last 3 talks were about. We talked about vitamin A for a whole week, and what that really is versus carotene, which is not vitamin A. And so vitamin A is sunlight in a fat soluble form. Just like vitamin C is sunlight in a water soluble form. And then you've got vitamin D. No, that's a sunlight filter. Because when the D3 production, when the D production starts, that's what, good catch. That's what tells the melanin to start being produced. And then melanin is connected with this whole fungal thing with the light. Wow, that's kind of cool, full circle kind of stuff. And then cholesterol is involved with that because the cholesterol in the skin gets triggered by the sunlight, the UV radiation.
To go up or down?
Well, the UV radiation, as it strikes the skin, it tells the body, like this is radiation. Okay. So it turns out cholesterol buffers the body against radiation.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
Wow.
You won't hear that anywhere except for freaks like me. If you want proof of my statement, though, the man that you want to look at is Revici, Emmanuel Revici, and Michael McAvoy and Lynn August, MD, and other practitioners will back me up on this because I learned this from them. And what Revici found out through exposing rats to gamma radiation, unfortunately, in the 50s and the 60s, found out that the rats who lived the longest exposed to the gamma radiation were eating saturated fat, cholesterol, and protein-rich diet. the ones on the unsaturated fats and all that. And what have they been doing to the humanity for the last couple hundred years is radiating us, electrifying us. Yeah. The legend goes that this age of the earth will end in fire, because the last age of the earth ended in water, and fire is electricity, is radiation, right? So the transition we're going through is not the end, it's just the end of the cycle, and there'll be an electrifying event at some point. The Diehold Foundation guy has a very good bit of science. Around 2046, the earth will be scorched, because our sun does a supernova every 12,000 years. And so if you look at the evidence of how the earth, and so what happens is the side of the earth as it's spinning that's facing the sun when it goes supernova gets scorched, and the other side's okay. And that causes a big shift, right? And it's a reset of sorts. And there's a lot of backing on this, the Mayan calendar, there's these events. And the Diehold Foundation, James Ewing sent me to this guy. You got to have the stomach for the rabbit hole stuff, because this guy is poking at some stuff that even I looked at my playlist last night and I couldn't even watch it. It's that deep and evil. He's just pointing out like how the science was even changed around Aristotle and the Greeks. They actually forcibly changed science to a matter-oriented science from an energy orientation on purpose. That was part of the rich family plan, for millennia now, to keep those humans dumbed down. Yeah, if you know what I know, oh boy. So there's this moment where we're walking up, and things that we're talking about right here, see how I bring that in, and then there's like a little tension, a little polarity, like, oh yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. Is humanity going to end up in a police state? Or is humanity going to end up in utopia? Neither. You know why? Because that's the point, is the mystery. And what I've been running across more and more lately, I run the risk of appearing arrogant by what I'm going to say the next few minutes, but I'm going to preface it with, I'm open to anyone chopping me up. Like I've sat in men's group for over 20 years, and I've took my lumps,
take the challenge.
Well, because you do these check-ins in groups, and so other people are listening to you check in. And so if you say something shadowy that you don't realize you said, it's going to get reflected back to you. And so I've had hundreds of those. You're like, hey, Craig, would you like me to reflect back to you the 5 shadowy things you said in a group of male elders that I was sitting in for the first time?
Yeah.
It's very humbling. It was like 10 years ago. I thought I was hot shit.
How informative, though.
Yeah, I took my lumps. I looked them all in the eyes, all these 7 of these men. I'm like, did I really say 5? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, I don't remember saying anything shadowy. Sincerely, I don't remember saying anything that odd. Right. But then they fed it back to me, and I'm like, wow, I'm not as awake as I thought I was, right? It's humble pie.
But others of us can learn from that too.
Well, I'm bringing it back to you guys. Yeah. Like, you guys haven't been through my ruthless facilitation, but Jay Rosella, Drew, Lars, Katie Peterson, there's a list of people, Gene, Bernie, Dave Rodriguez. Wow. They've been sliced and diced.
Wow.
No, but you gotta let your jigsaw puzzle spill over on the table to get the pieces exposed, And if you're not willing to do that, I'm not interested. Yep. Because we're in World War III. And this is the time where there was that legend in Egypt in the Old Testament, where you had to slaughter the calf and put the blood of the cross on your doorway so you didn't get the disease, the plague that was going through. Well, we're going through the same thing now. You either take a divine as your root and know what your refuge is, or you're going to perish, in my opinion. And on some level that's happening all around us, the people who have died the first are the ones that I can see were the vaccinated people that were saying, I wish all unvaccinated people would die. I saw 5 instances, they're already dead, 5 of these people that were very vocal about they're wishing the unvaxxed to be dead, and they're dead now, because that's the age we're living in. That's some bad cause and effect karma. Very bad karma. When you wish other people dead, don't you see it comes back to get you? You end up dead. But this is the divine laws that I'm teaching. I don't want to be sitting up here doing this. I want to go surf some waves, and I got a freaking mate here, and I'm gonna have a hard cider right here. Like I could go surf, and but no, I got God running me now. Yep. Like my life ain't my own. God's like, no, you're not doing that. You're in give back phase of your life now.
Is there a thing I can put around me?
Yeah, if you go in the there's a sweater right up there.
Okay, great.
That gray sweater, that's Paul Saliba's. I'm sure he won't mind.
Okay.
Yes, there's plenty of blankets here too. So we're going to end. I'm going to have a dramatic ending. So I'm going to be offering a workshop. It's going to be online and in person. And it's because of what I've observed over the arrogance part is I did a Facebook post today about it. Mm-hmm. And the statement is, you must become enlightened from your enlightenment. It's a Zen saying. You must become enlightened from your enlightenment.
Yes.
As soon as you think you're enlightened, you're not enlightened. But guess what? I do. I'm out in myself. Mm-hmm. I got the full arrogant motherfucking ego that's been through so many spiritual experiences and was never annihilated. So here I am. Welcome. You know, and sometimes people get the one-off. They have the awakening and it's all done. But, you know, when I was 25, I had a massive awakening and you know, I sought out stuff, you know, over the last 32 years and, you know, and I can't believe I'm alive. Mm-hmm. I mean, a lot of mistakes. And, you know, thank you, Grace, for keeping me alive, humbly. Because it's like the relationship now is with, my primary relationship is with Grace. And myself, of course. I like that. And as soon as there's a me and another, then there's an examination. Because that's what I was taught. And that's what feels right. As soon as, like, you know, when you get a break from yourself because you're so into what you're doing, you're making love or watching a movie, that's the oneness. And then when there's Craig sitting here and Satori over there, that's the separation. But that's life, is the dance between the two.
Oh, and craving the connection, right? The oneness.
Well, I'm a merger, you know. Yeah. You call it codependency, but that's just another freaking pathology they've invented for something that's natural, you know. You know, look at dogs. You know, when you leave your dog, they're like heartbroken the whole time you're gone.
And they're feeling you the whole time, like you said.
Because they're only in the moment. So when you're gone, it's forever, you know. They're just, it's forever to them. Yeah. Because that's where the heart lives. Yeah. You know, it doesn't live in the past or the future, you know. But that's where the light is, see? The alchemists talk about this gold, turning lead to gold. It's metaphorical for the heart, folks, you know? And you know that you're in the gold because your mind is saying, I can't believe I just said that. That's when you know you're in the right place.
Yeah, nice.
When your mind's in the back seat, not the front seat. So when you're rehearsing what you're going to say, that's front seat mind. You know, when you're thinking, what's Sammy Joe going to think when I say this? That's front seat mind. That's outside in thinking. Oof. Oof. Very weakening. Inside out thinking, see? Can you play good sports with outside in thinking? Nah. Can you make love well with outside in thinking? People do it, but it's not very good.
Or massage.
Gee, what's my partner going to think if I rub her here? Let's examine that for a minute.
Oh my God.
Wouldn't that be terrible?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, I've had a few partners where it was like everything had to be controlled, right? Oh, that hurts over there. Go over here. Oh, don't touch me there. Touch me over here. It's like one manipulation after the other, you know. And you know, the funny thing is when we start meditating, like when I started meditating, these aches and pains out of nowhere would be an ache in my shoulder, and then I'd be salivating too much, and then not enough, and then my eyeball would twitch, and then my butt cheek would get sore, and they would move around, you know, in a half hour. I'd be like, I'm not in pain. What the fuck is all this stuff?
Energy moving?
Well, Chinese call it wind, internal wind.
Oh, I like that.
And the Ayurvedics call it vata. Yeah, it's just well, it's not really air because it's consciousness. It's more closer to ether. You know, the ether's like the canvas, you know, and then air comes in, right? But ether's like the canvas, and like even outer space has to go into ether, right? Because even outer space has some level of whoa. I just saw some of they've been beaming something on the mountain. I mean, there's a couple of these mountaintops. There's some what do they call those things? Nexrad towers, Nexrad. And these Nexrad towers, they've got microwaves on them, and so I just talk about microwave beams going this way. It was like, you know, when you unfocus, I looked up and I was unfocused and I saw straight lines going that way. And I'm like, oh, no, come back to Earth. It's not fun to look at. And so you walk up these steps to the gargoyles here, and if you're full of light, you know, let thine eye be single, you know, full of light. So I'll just speak from a personal experience. On my journey through this thing, the first time I really encountered this probably was after I broke my neck. Yeah, okay. I had this female partner, and I mean Wendy, bless you. I don't remember her last name, but she was the first woman that she knew how to use her vaginal muscles all the way down to all the way to the top. Like she could undulate and
nice.
Man, I mean,
that was an experience.
We met because I was drinking tequila, and I was very audacious on the dance floor. And I'm not a Saturday Night Fever kind of dancer, but this night I was on tequila and Long Island iced teas and 25 years old, and I was rocking the house. And we were both dancing on either side, like doing dirty dancing on the other side of the dance floor. We ended up together, and then we had a couple of really hot dates. We went and hung out later that night, but we were going to have sex. And then and we both agreed that we wouldn't respect each other. So we decided not to have sex, but we did the next night.
And it was good.
Well, we had a good connection, and then at some point, I'd run against this edge of like the feminine represents the mystery.
Okay.
And the masculine represents the known.
Nice.
These are archetypes, folks. This isn't men and women. Okay. So don't jump down my throat because I'm talking archetypal. And so she said to me, we'd been together probably 6 months, pretty committed relationship, pretty good relationship. And she took me aside. She says, I'm breaking up with you. And I was like, what? Things are great. And she's like, you've never once said, I love you.
Oh, there we go.
She goes, you demonstrate it. And I see you, but it's nice to hear it. And you're afraid to say it. And she goes, and that's why. And she goes, it's already done. I've been waiting for you. And I call that's entering the mystery right there. It's like, I don't know what's going to happen if I say I love you, and I had to rewind that for months. Like, why couldn't I say I love you? I felt there'd be moments where I wanted to say it, and then I would like collapse in on myself of fear and anxiety. And I'm like, what the fuck was that? I just threw away a relationship just because of 3 words.
Oh, shoot.
Right?
Wow.
But it's this mystery thing anybody who's sensitive, which in Arthur Firstenberg's book, when they brought electricity into the world, was one of the best surveys to this day I've still ever seen, was people would start getting weird illnesses, right? It was like the 1900s. And so they did a survey in a bunch of places, and this is thousands and thousands of people. They figured out that 30% of the population was sensitive to electricity. 30%.
Wow.
So that's roughly a third of the population are the empaths. Mm-hmm. And they're the ones that the demons that are running things are trying to wipe out. Yep. You can say Pleiadian agendas and Pleiadians and blah blah blah, but I really don't know how that part of it works. But I do know that in the world of duality, what we're seeing on this 3D world we have here is a reflection of these other realms where there's some stuff going on that we can't perceive. But what we can do is we can follow the breadcrumbs left by the masters. Like I'm making no claims, but what I'm seeing around me is this high level contamination, subtle spiritual ego. I'm going to come out and say it. And I'll just put myself in that crowd just to say, hey, if I spot it, I got it. And I'm willing to sit there with humility and say, yeah, I got it too, but at least I can see it. And that's step 1, is to admit you're an alcoholic. Adyashanti like to say, you people out here, your addictions run so subtle and deep, you don't even realize, but you're addicted to thinking.
Ooh. Right.
He goes, just try and make it stop. You're an addict. You don't even know it. And that was, I heard that 20 years ago. I mean, like, whoa.
Wow, that's great.
How do you make the thing shut up?
Thank you.
I know how to make the thing shut up. Do you guys know?
Yeah, I dance.
Dancing? Great. How else?
Laugh.
You don't have to do anything to make it stop.
Wow. To be just
Be present with it.
To just get it.
Yeah, that's closer. Very good. Yeah.
What do you say, laugh? Yeah.
Be present with it and smile.
Align and be with what's always and already here. I had the good fortune of being up on stage with Abraham and looking into those eyes, into those entities, and that's why my life's a freak show.
Talk about Hicks.
Yeah, Abraham Hicks. Like, okay. I had a girlfriend that, you know, if I didn't like Abraham, it was sort of a deal breaker for her, kind of in a jokingly way. But I ended up loving the book, asking it as given, and ended up at this Abraham convention up in the Marriott in Palo Alto off the freeway, the 101, and yeah, it's like 300 or 400 people in this room, and okay, anybody want to come up here? And you know, and her whole family's there, and they'd been to like, you know, 8, 7, 8, 9 of these things and never gone on stage, and I'm like, yeah, put my hand up, sure, let's see if I can get up there, and I got. The third one, I got called on. The whole family hated me. Like, first time you're up on stage, you know. I'm like, but I was meant to be on stage to ask this question, you know. But the guy before me, I think he had, yeah, I didn't ask the question. The guy before me had asked. He said, "So, since you guys are living in the present moment and humans aren't, because human, you know, we're at a time delay to reality. By the time we perceive reality, reality's already moved on to the next moment."
Yep.
I mean, it's kind of, when you start to sit with it, it's like MTV. It's really, we live a series of MTV moments, you know, if you remember MTV. And so Abraham said, yeah, humans to us are in past tense.
Yeah, right. I love that. I love that.
I've said it before, told the story before. So what I see out there is, if you're unwilling, like, we were talking about this in the natural law call Tuesday night, is if you cannot be vulnerable, you haven't found your power. And you find your power, being vulnerable is easy because there's nothing to be damaged. Yeah. In the end, it's like, it's just theater. And Adyashanti calls that the diamond in your pocket. You should never forget it's there, that there's no consequences here. It's just theater. And once you see that, you don't even need faith or belief. Like Carl Jung didn't have faith or belief. You know, he was out. Do you believe in God? He's like, I don't believe in God. I know God directly. I don't need that shit.
I love it. Oh my God.
You know, and I have a friend who calls her beliefs her 4-letter words. She goes, I'm getting rid of my 4-letter word. I'm getting rid of my beliefs. And because gnosis, Gnosis, gnosis means to know directly, to align with what's always and already here. Because we have a sort of transpersonal part it's already running things. And that goes back to the Zen saying again, you're not the doer. And then I add on, so stop taking credit for what already happened inside your being. You know, it's like, just take a breath and notice what just happened instead. Like, wow, something magical just happened. And that's this gargoyle thing again. And if you're unwilling to take your lumps, so I'm leading groups, come and sit with a group with me, you know, and how about it? You know, I'm game, because we're only going to wake up through going through our shit, not around it, not bypassing it, not medicating it, not, what else do we do? Just being with it and being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, for a little bit.
Oh, geez, yeah, I'd say it.
Life is a sine wave. Anybody who thinks that you're going to end up eternally happy, they're deluded. That's not the way it works.
Yeah.
It's not. And you know, I see all kinds of energy workers and some of these Abraham people and the secret peoples, and you know, I read at least 500 stories of enlightenment in my 20s and 30s. It was like a science to me. Like, how do you get enlightened?
Yeah.
You know, I made it all a formula, you know, and it didn't work, of course. But I didn't see what it was until age 39, when I was able to let go enough. And I had the same experience a lot of people have. It's like, really? It was that simple? Oh, man. Some people laugh for days. I laughed for a whole day. I was at Mount Madonna. I laughed for a whole day. I cried for a whole day. You know that when they used to have the waterfall? I go and sat behind the waterfall for hours, cried my eyes out. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was just lost. And then an hour later, I'd be in bliss. I was like, one guy had a nervous breakdown at that same retreat. He started speaking in tongues.
Wow.
They had to take him out of the big room with the big meditation room at Mount Madonna. Yeah, there was like 300 of us in there, and he was speaking in tongues. You know, they had to take him out.
If you're discussing this, I just want to go off and be.
Oh my God. Yeah.
You know
So
what I mean?
we're gonna wind this up because it's 5 to 8, and I said I'd be done by 8. So the full circle stuff is, and the camera's getting grainy too, which means the light's decreasing. So folks, this will be a couple of weeks running with this. You know, you're willing to sit in the mystery, and even just part of the mystery is, so what I hear from women is, I'm sorry guys, but 2 out of 3 women say they're not happy with their man, especially sexually. And so when I hear that, it means, remember my being unable to say I love you?
Yeah.
The feminine represents the mystery. And for a man to enter a woman who's a masculine woman and a feminine woman and a masculine man, he's got to be able to look into those eyes and acknowledge that he doesn't know what the fuck he's going into.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't know what the fuck's going to happen, but he's willing to grab his flashlight and tools and service the feminine. I have the metaphor of the service station attendant.
What did she do? What is her role?
To receive and then to be a Christmas tree that I can bask in the light of.
Oh, wow. I love it. Okay.
If a man knows how to light up a woman, she's glowing for hours.
Mm.
Any man that's done that knows that. And that's why most men who know what the fuck they're doing, they would rather eat a woman out than put his penis in her.
Mm. Mm.
Because they know. You know, and so they call it foreplay, but to me, the orgasmic meditation people at One Taste, which don't exist anymore, but we got to give them credit because I was privately trained with Noel. Thank you, Noel, for suggesting that. And 18 months of training and owning a lot of and doing a lot of this practice led me to ultimately we're reading ourselves, and I've been meditating a long time, so I know what's mine at this point, mostly. Of course, it's mysterious because we're always in new situations, but I kind of know the TV show that's Craig, internally. And then so when I'm with somebody else, then there'll be changes in my internal reality that we all can understand. And that's how I read another person, is that thought I just had is not mine. Therefore, when I'm doing facilitation work with people, if there's a change in me, I'll immediately go, what just happened over there? And some women start crying right then and there because they've never been read that well. But when you get read that well, something changes in you.
Yeah.
Remember the other day, Carol? You changed.
No.
I watched you change. Yeah. Because you were willing to sit and take your lumps for a minute. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it changes us. It's like alchemy, like, I was this big and now I'm this big. Right? That's how it feels to me. Like, thank you, you 7 elder men, redwood elders, for telling me my shadows and having the courage to do so. I mean, that's a true friend, right? A true friend will say, you're getting shadowy right now. You're doing shadowy behavior. That's a true friend.
Yeah.
Because you're down in a hole, a pit of La Brea pit darkness, and I'm going to pull you out. I ain't diving in there with you. Fuck that. I used to do that, though. Oh, I'll shapeshift and I'll be with you in your suffering. And, I'll suffer too with you. Fuck that. Just throw a rope down and pull them up into the light, like, so you hear past the gargoyles, So a friend of mine used this metaphor: the world we're living in is like a swamp. And most people are sinking. Thank you, Brian. Oh my God. And so what's happening now, though, is that, and even Trump mentioned the swamp. I'm draining the swamp.
Oh, that's true, huh?
Right? That's what's going on right now. They're all being exposed. And I'm still seeing it's great. I mean, it's just really great. So the practical end of this talk, we're at 8, is yes, mushrooms will help you absorb more light, but getting yourself, I sent it to Trevor. Trevor knows. Raw liver, green juices, raw protein. Yeah, raw dairy. There's many breadcrumbs have been laid for us. It's just that the powers that be don't want us to see this stuff, right? So the takeaway is probably the single most important food to balance your iron, copper, magnesium thing is if you're doing live green juices and doing raw liver, you're way ahead of the game. And unfortunately, when you cook the liver, people ask me, does it matter if it's cooked? Yes, it does matter. The cancer studies of William Kelly in the 60s and the 70s clearly show people weren't healing of cancer on cooked liver, but they were on raw. So when you have that much empirical evidence, you have the authority to say this stuff. And that's why these people are being wiped out and killed, because of, paid science by universities. So to be in the light requires facing your crucifixion complex, which is, I'm still facing it, like, people like Mercola and Zach Bush and some of these big time doctors out there, they're being crucified, aren't they? Yeah. Through the media, because that's the means, but you've got to be able to stand. And the strong ones they're standing proud. And those of you who were not part of the medical experiment. You should be patting yourself on the back, because unprecedented amount of pressure has been placed upon us. Unprecedented. And I found out that if I use certain words in my talk on YouTube, I've got 2 warning strikes against me, by the way. So I've got to be very careful about how I word stuff in my descriptions now. I get loose, and then, man, so that's what I'm talking about. That's the crucifixion complex. We're being censored as we live, but the technology is so good, we can slide under the radar. See, I mean, I only got 425 subscribers, and my top video has like 50,000 views. So I'm like what I call a minor celebrity on YouTube, right? So I can slide under the radar, but someone like Mercola can't.
Yeah.
So folks, if you're watching this, thank you. Do you guys have anything you want on camera, questions about the practicality of it? Revolves in the rawness of things, the raw fats and the raw proteins. And if you want any proof to this, I'm going to be doing a workshop coming up where we're going to be facilitating people, and it's going to be very direct, and there's going to be a survey to take before you come in. And if you're not willing to have the flashlight shined on you, then you shouldn't be in this group.
What's the name of the group?
It hasn't started yet. It's not going to be in the Gender Alchemy, because that's a free, but that group is starting this Sunday at Drew's, the Gender Alchemy, and there'll be some slicing and dicing and love there. We don't know how it's going to look yet.
Be at Drew's?
Yeah, this Sunday. It's the men's group with women added.
Oh.
Or wait, and non-binary too. We have to be the inclusive one, so men, women, and if you're not sure, we'll,
the unidentified.
if you're a they, you can come too, and we'll explore that. Really, just being present is, I don't know what's going to happen. I have a topic, and the topic is, what does it mean to be a healthy man or a healthy woman in the 21st century? That's how I started the last men's group.
Wow, what time?
6:30. You can be on the email list. Like I said, it's going to top out. There's 200 people on the email list, but there's a Zoom group on Tuesday nights, and that's for the more national crowd. I've got people that want to be in it, and so it'll be under the natural law title. But I have to develop. It's going to have we'll have an in-person registration and a Zoom registration, because there's going to be a online component to it. We'll have an in-person one and an online one, because you guys don't want the online stuff, so we have to have an in-person one for our. The freedom community here, that's you guys are my tribe, so that's what I'm devoting myself to, going to the Sunday stuff, and it's like, because that's real. It's not, you're not a freaking number in a hospital with the AI running things. And I will add this at the end, folks. I was approached by Health 2.0, this convention that's going to be in Vegas this December 21st, 22nd, 23rd, and this organization in India is sponsoring 6 conventions of 500 people deep, of sort of envisioning the future. Okay, it's just audio only. The light's getting too dim. And so stick with me, folks. Let's finish this audio part. Is this man sends me an application, and hey, you're obviously an influencer in health. We want you in our health thing. Here's a link. It's at the Mandalay Inn, where Trump was even, and in Vegas, and I'm looking at this, and it's like mass and temperature checks and AI, and so I filled out the form, and then we had our Zoom call, and I just laid into the guy. He was 25, and he's over in Delhi, and I'm like, dude, mass and and testing. I go, you're talking to the wrong guy. I go, I'm gonna lay into you guys. You have me show up, and I went on a 5-minute rant, and he ended up smiling. He goes, oh, I'm with you. And I'm like, well, what's this cover shit? And he's like, oh, you know how it is with the rules and regulations. And he goes, so we had a half-hour Zoom call that went for 65 minutes. He was so enraptured with me because I was so direct. And then he invited me to stay with his family in India. And I said, what's the deal with this thing? I go, half your health 2.0 stuff is AI and da-da-da. And he goes, we know that. And we saw you. And he goes, we really need someone like you there, because you're going to stir the pot. And I'm like, he goes, but you're going to need to come up with there's a $50 application fee. And I'm like, and it's refundable if you're not chosen through the applicants. And I'm like, okay, that sounds legit. And I saw the contract. Okay, I'll pay your fee. He goes, but then you have to pay $1,500 to stay at the inn. And I go,
Oh.
you approach me, you invite me. I go, you'll find a way to get me there, dude, because I ain't paying a dime.
Wow.
I'll pay to get myself there.
Yeah, you make the
But you're
thing
no. If
make
you're gonna
it
invite
real.
me, no, you're paying for my room and board.
Wow.
And so he was game. We'll see how it works out. He said somebody would step up in the trail of command that would take care of things. And so the point of that is that for me, there was this moment 5 or 6 years ago. I was riding my bike back in the mountains here in Santa Cruz, and I kept thinking there was a car behind me because it was getting dark and the headlights. I kept turning around, going, "What the fuck? There's no car behind me. I keep seeing this light. What?" And then I kind of brushed it off. And then a few weeks later, it happened in my car. I was driving at night, and there's a car coming up behind me. What? No. And then I got home and I laid down, and then it was like it was coming through the bed. I'm like, and I was like, "Oh my god, it's my fucking medulla, like the movie projector turned on." Yogananda has this metaphor of your third eye is the movie screen, and the medulla oblongata is the movie projector, and it shines up. This part of the chakra goes out this way, and it's the will-based center, and the center in the front's the feeling center of the vortex that we are. And that's why I'm at my give back point, is because all the trials and tribulations I've been through, as Adyashanti said 20 years ago, there's no guarantee you'll survive your process. He's a brutal teacher. You got to be ready for directness for this guy. And I was game, like, sign me up. I want to see how things are, and I survived. And now I'm sane. People in the insane asylums, they're the ones that get sidetracked on this journey, and because it's hard in today's world.
Yeah.
And so this light coming through, I believe, is the always and already. And I am here. I mean, I'm here to glorify God, but I can't go around saying that because then I look corny. So it's like, I'm here to glorify, like they say, a good leader makes others better. Okay, that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
I'm here to make others better.
That's beautiful.
And you too could be made better
Beautiful.
with my arrogant speech here, because I'm so awesome. And thank you for watching the talk. And there are a little black screen at the end here. Maybe I'll put some little pictures at the end to finish the slideshow. Thanks, folks.